Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney here at the R&R Law Group in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today, freedom truckers honk back against anti-convoy threats. This has been something we've been following. We talked a lot about this on Tuesday, and there's been a lot of activity. The truckers are still there. The title of the thumbnail today, resolute, but there's a lot of words for that, a lot of resolve, a lot of courage, a lot of steadfast stick-to-itiveness. They've been there for 6-7 days now and sort of continuing to matriculate. And so we've got a lot to get to. We're going to start by talking about what the government is doing to respond to this, because yesterday on the show I mentioned that there was some conversation about Ottawa officials saying that they may even be considering using the military to sort of remove the truckers from the vicinity. And of course, that didn't sit well with me and many other people out there. And so we're going to revisit that comment because it took place during a city council meeting, and I've got a clip of that. We're also going to check in with some other city council members. A woman by the name of Diane Deans was out there talking to other people on the city council, and she started this movement to stop the GoFundMe account, the fundraising campaign that was taking place that had over 10 million bucks. And so GoFundMe then came out and actually suspended that. Last I checked, it's still suspended while they review it. 10 million bucks sort of caught in escrow in GoFundMe's account. So we'll see what that's all about. We're going to check back in with Ottawa Police Chief Peter Sloly, because he told us a few days ago that this whole thing was very peaceful and that there was really not any violence. But now the media is sort of flipping it around, and we're going to hear directly from Mr. Viva Frei, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber. And he was on the streets, and he actually had questions for a CBC reporter, somebody who was with the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation there, and he asked them some questions, and then he talked to some other people on the streets. And we're going to do a little bit of a compare and contrast and see who is sort of, I would say, more authentic in terms of their responses. And so Viva is going to make a cameo recorded. He was, of course, there all day, many days this week. And so we're going to check in with him. And then we're going to listen to, the CBC out there in Canada. They found these 3 women who were victims of trucker abuse. Horrific thing that happened. And so we're going to have to talk about what happened with these 3 women. And then we're going, I'm joking. And then we're going to just, we've got a lot to talk about. My goodness, the Toronto mayor is now saying that they're going to have to bring in law enforcement over in Toronto because there's rumors of a convoy taking place there. Toronto, not too far away from Ottawa. And so we'll take a look at the map. We've got blockades are being set up by police from Canada near the Couts border in Alberta. And so they're actually setting up shop. There is a river up there. I forget the name of it, or a Mill River Town, something like that. I've got it in the slides. And so they go, and the police are setting up blockades. And so it's sort of escalating there to some degree. Lawyers have been hired. Rebel News brought in a lawyer called Chad Williamson. And right before the show started, there was a Justice Center organization in Canada that they're throwing their hat into the ring. They're going over to Ottawa. And so just there's a lot going on. And in our final segment, we're going to deconstruct Justin Trudeau's tweet. Remember this one on Tuesday that sort of left me sort of speechless a little bit because of the language that he was using, calling all of these people, racists and vandals and thieves, and literally saying that these truckers, the people who were out there and supporting and protesting with them, were people who were dishonoring the veterans. I was thinking, this is crazy. If anybody said something like that in the United States, Hillary Clinton did. She called a whole bucket of people a basket of deplorables. Might have cost her the election. And so you sort of see this very aggressive language. And so I wanted to do a fact check on that. I wanted to see whether there was any truth to that. And so I went around and gathered some evidence, and we're going to look at it. We're going to take Justin Trudeau's tweet and see how it matches the evidence in our final segment today. And so if you want to be a part of the show, as I mentioned, there's just a lot to get to. I couldn't even get through it all. The place to do that is at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. There is a comments thread that looks something like this. Drop your comment down in the comment section below. We'll do our very best to get to all of those today. We also have membership now on YouTube. If you click that join button on YouTube, you get to use these custom gifts, and you can see we've got a whole slew of these. We're up to 9 now, and so yesterday we added Saki Circle Back, which was a good ad, I think. We'll see if that gets used. And then we also added today, number 9 is the Rogan. And so Rogan's obviously very excited right there. I like that one. I think it's a fun one. And so if we keep going, if you sign up and keep supporting the show, once we get to more members, we're going to be able to bring in 10 emoji, and it's just going to be a ton of fun. We also have a member perk, so you get these little badges. The longer that you're a member, you sort of tier up your badge, and that's super fun. And so you can join by just clicking that button and joining. And of course, I very much appreciate it. All right, so without any further ado, let's get into it. Freedom truckers, ring on. The sound of freedom sounds something like this. And before we get into it, we want to make sure we all join in symbolically with the good old honk honk. So this is what it sounds like. Oh yeah, that's a good one. And that has been ringing throughout the streets of Ottawa and many other places in Canada and really throughout the world. And it's been such a problem for the Ottawa officials that now they say they are looking at every single option to help end the trucker protest as demonstrations enter the 6th day. And so that was yesterday, the 6th day. It is now the 7th day. The protests are still well underway. And so obviously they haven't solved anything in between this last 24 hours. CNN is reporting, according to CNN World, saying that Ottawa's police chief, Peter Sloly, we're going to hear from him next, is saying we're looking at every single option, including military aid. Underscored the fact that such a request would be rare, and he would only recall the military being used once before. No such plans for involvement. Canadian Armed Forces, according to the defense minister, are not involved in law enforcement action in this situation. However, Sloly warned residents he expects more people are going to return to the capital this weekend. And so this is the police chief out of Ottawa. Here's what that conversation sounded like. And you're going to hear that the city council person, the woman who's asking him the question, certainly sounds, frustrated. She's like, hey, Mr. Police Chief, we need options here. Okay, the city is under siege. We are being occupied by foreign invaders. And what are we going to do about this? And so Peter is just sort of, running through some options. And then the other person on the other side of the screen who we don't see is very exasperated, right? She's, well, what the heck does that mean? What are you actually going to do about this? Here's how that sounds.
Increasingly, as we see demonstrations, not just here, but elsewhere in the country, where there are efforts by strictly a policing action, we are not as confident as we have been that police alone will resolve this situation substantially, never mind in totality. And it's in that context that I make the statement, there is likely no policing solution to this, but in combination with other efforts, there may be other opportunities to substantially reduce, if not end this demonstration. It is a local demonstration, a provincial demonstration, a national demonstration, and one that has international elements associated to it.
I know, but I don't know what that means, right? When you say other than police, do you need politics? Do you need military? I don't understand the answer. I understand it's not only police, but then what are those other options that are not police options that we might need?
I think you just listed most of them right there.
Okay, so you see how that went. So that city council person, well, I don't know what it means. And she lists a whole slew of options, and he says, yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, including the military. Basically, what he's saying is, listen, I'm a police chief here in Ottawa, right? I've only got so many capabilities. I'm going to do what I can, but if you're telling me you want me to go remove 50,000 people with gigantic trucks from my city, there's only so much I can do on this thing, right? I'm just a local police person. You're going to need to go and figure this out on your own, city council. And so you can't fault this police officer for, look, we're not going to be able to solve this because the city council's like, well, sir, what are we going to do about this? You heard her, screaming from the rooftop there. What's going to happen? I don't know. Figure something else out, right? It's your problem. Figure it out. And so obviously the concern about bringing the military in is that it's the military, and this is a domestic issue and a peaceful protest, not insurrection land like we have here in the United States. And so they don't want it to go that way in their country, I would imagine. But regardless, we're going to see if that happens. The Canadian authorities have said, there's really no hint that is going to be necessary here, but you don't know, right? We don't know how this stuff is going to continue to unfold. And so that is not the only option that they are using. We see that there is another terrible person from Canada who is a city council member. Her name is Diane. We're going to learn more about her. But they're asking now that the fundraiser for GoFundMe be canceled, and they actually did, or suspend it. The fundraiser, according to Post Millennial, says that fundraiser is under review, and they're going to be checking to make sure that it complies with their appropriate terms of service. Okay, here is the woman. This is Ottawa City Council, and the quote here is we need to cut off the pipeline of funding to these mercenaries that are unlawfully protesting and occupying our communities. Do you hear this language? Okay, so now you start to see, maybe the military sounds like it's a reasonable solution, because you have Looney Tune city council people saying we are being occupied by mercenary forces unlawfully in our communities. So it sounds like she thinks she's under invasion by, I don't know, the Taliban or something. And so the military is going to have to go and deal with that. We're going to listen to that clip. Who is this person? This is Diane Deans. And basically, she's just a lifelong bureaucrat. She's been around forever. Let's see. Deans was elected to the city council in 1994. All right. So however long that is, she's still on the city council. And so I think she's basically, I think, in the class of Joe Biden and all of those people. Faced a tough election, once again reelected in 2014 for her 7th consecutive term. Liberal Party of Canada. So she's just literally a lifetime government bureaucrat. So, okay, so not too much interesting there. But here's what she has to say about this, about these dangerous mercenaries. And we're going to dig into this soon.
I want to ask the mayor if he will pick up the phone and call GoFundMe in the States directly and demand that they cease and desist sending money to these unlawful protesters. And perhaps while he's at it, he could pick up the phone and ask the Prime Minister to do the same. We've had some conversations about perhaps suing GoFundMe.
Suing?
But legal action takes time, and this is urgent. We need to cut off the pipeline of funding to these people that are unlawfully mercenaries, if you will, that are unlawfully protesting and occupying our communities.
Look, in the United States, okay, there's sort of this meme that Canadian people are just ultra nice, right? Really, really polite and really, really sort of, I'm sorry for everything. And, just all around like wholesome, good-hearted people. And so under that context, right, you can see how maybe, I don't know, trucks might be really traumatic for this woman. Is that fair to say? No, it's not fair. It's ridiculous what she said. Okay, I was trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. Can't do that. Nonsense. Here is the GoFundMe that is now suspended thanks to this woman and her lunatic people who are supporting this type of stuff. GoFundMe Freedom Convoy 2022 raised $10 million. $10 million bucks. And then GoFundMe says, the fundraiser is currently paused and under review to ensure it complies with our terms of service. Our team is working 24/7, doing all we can to protect both organizers and donors. Thank you for your patience. And so that's obviously part of her handiwork, is it not? Can you call the Prime Minister and tell them to call down there and say, we're very unhappy about this? And somebody did. And now it is off. And so you can see, right, the big tech conglomerates are all starting to get in lockstep with each other, which is what happens when these things happen. And we can see now, according to Legal Insurrection, Mary Chastain is writing that Facebook removed the Convoy to DC group. So the United States was going to do our own version of this. And there was a Facebook group that had over 130,000 members a part of it. But Facebook quickly removed the group. And why? They said, well, it's violating our policies around QAnon, which is ridiculous, right? Facebook declared QAnon a violence-inducing conspiracy network. Therefore, the company will remove any groups or pages or administrators associated with it. So that's perfect. So Facebook just somebody posts in there and they say, I'm a QAnoner, and Facebook goes, oh, there it is, perfect. 130,000 people vanish, gone. Get organized somewhere else. And so Facebook, of course, their stock is in the toilet, as it should be. You can see here very recently, they're down 20%. Nobody's using it anymore, and their earnings report came out. And so people are saying, well, hey, maybe dummies, if you stop banning people from your platform, then maybe people will stop leaving it and start actually using it. But I'm not sure that they're going to get any hints from any of this stuff, because they're all boiled into it. And so a couple super chats came in. One from Dr. EMB, very early on at the start of the show, says, thanks for covering this, Robert. I live in this depressing and tyrannical country. I did not vote for Trudeau. I hope the positive energy and spirit of this movement travels worldwide and that we can get over this depressing period in history. Keep up the great work. And thank you for that, Dr. EMB. And I appreciate you being here. And for all of you who are, sort of continuing to chime in on this and support these guys and gals, because it's a difficult thing that they're going through. They're facing people who are posting stuff like this, calling them and sort of besmirching their names. Ottawa police is saying still, confrontations and the need for de-escalation has regularly been required. They posted this a few days ago. We're going to fast forward soon. Along the safety measures, costs to businesses and social costs, Ottawa police continue to tally the financial costs of policing at more than $800,000 a day. And we're going to, we checked in with a police officer from a couple days ago that seemed pretty accommodating. But you see here, Christy Kirkup says, Councillor Diane Deans said protests are not peaceful and that many residents do not feel safe. She said that residents in the capital are used to seeing demonstration, but this goes beyond what citizens are accustomed to. And we're going to see that. We're going to see that here in a minute. Ottawa citizen is now saying, oh, the fumes now are causing serious health issues for Centertown residents. And so, this is something that a lot of people are noticing out there in the media, that it is actually a total disconnect, really. I mean, what we're seeing on the ground, and we're going to get to that later on in the show, just doesn't match the reported reality. And it's not even matching their own real reporting, because the Post-Millennial pointed this out for us, says that the Ottawa police chief, Peter Sloly, said that the Freedom Convoy saw no injuries, death, or riots despite people demonstrating 24 hours a day for 4 days. Right, so just a few days ago, it was 4 days into this thing, no riots, no deaths, no injuries, not even a big deal.
They have been an incredible group of individuals who kept this city safe during a situation that could have become riotous. It could have led to significant and severe injuries.
See that?
It could have led to the loss of life.
Could have.
None of that has occurred over the last 4 days.
Right on.
I repeat. No injuries, no deaths, no riots in the last 4 days in the nation's capital.
Hey.
Despite the fact that we have a global cause, national protest, tens of thousands of individuals from a wide variety of causes who have gathered to actively demonstrate 24 hours a day for the last 4 days. All of that coupled with thousands of heavy trucks, SUVs, and cars driving into the city and congregating in the core of this city 24 hours a day for 4 days a week.
That sounds pretty dang amazing to me, right? That sounds like it's like a little utopia over there. Everybody's just frolicking around, prancing around, celebrating freedom with each other. Nobody's even getting violent. I mean, shoot, you get into a fight going into a parking lot at your grocery store, don't you? Somebody, kind of cuts you off, like, I'm going to murder that person right now. Somebody better call the police and hold me back, because this is about to get wild. And here there's 10,000 truckers with the biggest vehicles ever, and it's just total peace and harmony. Even the police chief is like, yeah, it's pretty nice out there. It's pretty amazing. So it's going real well. And but for some reason, we're going to see the media continue to misconstrue it. And here now is a very interesting clip from our boy Viva. Viva is right next door on YouTube and over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And what's happening here in this scene we're going to see, and we're going to see sort of this compare and contrast right now. So we're seeing like multiple different reports. They're calling, the protesters all sorts of names, and they're saying that they're wrecking the city. And so you have the CBC, which is this organization, which is part of the, the Canadian I guess, governmental infrastructure. And so they're out there doing man on the street interviews with people. And so they're talking to this guy, and we really don't know what he's saying. They got the camera person here, and there is the actual journalist or alleged journalist on the other side of him with this boom mic that is reaching out and interviewing. Now, the person behind the camera that we're watching through is, of course, the one and only Viva. You can see his name down there. It's kind of covered up. Yeah, Viva Frei. Up there in the top right, you can see it. And so make sure you subscribe over to him. I tagged him in the description on YouTube. But he is hanging out down at Ottawa. You can see a lot of the buildings that we spent a lot of time covering. And he's going to ask the CBC about their reporting. Specifically, right? He's there. He lives in Canada. And so he's going to say, you know, your reporting doesn't feel like it sort of matches the reality of what I'm seeing here on the ground. Do you think you guys are being fully honest? Let's listen into Viva. Don't forget to subscribe to him on Locals and on YouTube. Here's Viva.
Okay, their interview's over. Let's do this.
Thanks for your patience, folks.
Oh, God, no problem. If I may ask you guys a couple of questions. Sir, I'm live streaming right now. I don't want to put you on blast or anything, and I'm not going to do anything bad or embarrassing to you. May I ask you just a couple of questions? Who do you work with?
I work at CBC.
CBC.
Okay, now here's my question. Have you had any bad experiences while recording here?
Any bad experiences while recording here?
Depends what you mean by bad. Personally, I haven't experienced anyone trying to stop me from doing my work, but I've also seen a colleague get a beer can thrown at his head while trying to go live.
Okay, so he says, personally, I have not experienced anything bad. Nobody's trying to stop me from doing my work, but I have seen somebody else throw a beer can at somebody else's head.
I've seen another person who was trying to do a live hit get heckled while they were trying to do their job.
Somebody else heckled.
To me,
Okay.
but I've seen it happen to others.
Now, this is my philosophical, I say metaphysical question. Do you honestly, do you guys think that you put out news with an agenda or a bias or a slant?
Do you think that you guys put out an agenda with a bias or a slant? And I'm just pausing because of the honking. Here it is. No.
You don't think you do?
We don't put out views with slant.
We don't put out views with slant.
Another obvious question. To the extent that there are reasonably intelligent people, I consider myself to be reasonably intelligent.
I do too, Viva.
Not only biased, but dishonest. Is the idea that people who feel that way are wrong, or that you don't think that what you're doing is biased and dishonest?
We don't do dishonest news, sir. I'm not going to cast judgment on opinions of people who take in our news, but we're not dishonest in our reply.
Okay, now here's a more
going to
underlying.
have to go.
No.
I've got to go.
Do you understand why people think that?
You're talking about so many people. I wouldn't be able to tell you how or why.
I have no hard feelings. I thank you for answering my question, Doctor. Have a good one.
Right on, Viva. Right. Get him. Yes.
Now, just going to take two random samples of the population.
Now let's ask the real people.
Okay. I'm fine with it because you were in the back. The question is, do you trust the CBC to put out unbiased and accurate information when it comes to political matters?
Absolutely not. 1,000% not. I was just going to butt in there with the reporters because I'm from Western Canada, came with the convoy, and the first 2 days here, what we've seen on Parliament Hill, there was thousands and thousands of people. It was peace, love, and respect. People cleaning up, people shoveling the sidewalks in front of Parliament. And then we go to the hotel room at night and turn on the news and damn near broke into tears because it is not what is happening on Parliament Hill. What they're reporting, it is absolutely disgusting.
Okay, so let me show you what they are reporting here, and because so he says, right, I'm here. I'm standing on the streets with Viva. We see what's going on, but we see what the CBC is reporting. And we saw what the CBC guy was doing, right? We saw the guy that he was talking to. We didn't see that interview, but it kind of looked something like this, didn't it? So if you sort of put yourself in the cameraman's shoes, like this looks like it's another CBC person, right? Holding the microphone in somebody's face and asking them questions. It's sort of like deja vu. This is another version of it. And of course, this is from the CBC. And these are those three ladies that I was talking about. And, you know, they're just so upset, but it's honestly, it's hard to even like be mad at them. They're just so darn cute. It's all I can say. Here, let's listen though. But they are the victims of some serious trucker violence. And the CBC is just milking this for all it's worth. This is what they're playing in Canada. Here's what it sounds like. Now, All right, let's just check it out.
We were coming from different places, and we met in front of our building. And then this guy with this huge truck came and tooting, you know.
Tooting.
And I said, this is awful. Let's go and stop him.
This huge truck and a bunch of littler trucks came up our little street here, honking away, and we just decided we'd had enough. And we thought we'd make a statement.
Yeah, they had enough. That little old lady was just so upset with the tooting, and they were tooting all over the place, and they were just coming in, and they were big old trucks, toot toot, and she just couldn't take it. And so finally, gosh, they had enough. You know, they put their masks on, and they said, we just decided we have to make a statement. And so good for them. You know, I agree with people engaging in civil discourse. If we're going to have, if we're going to have a dialogue about this, let's get into it. And so here's what their statement was. Let's pay close attention.
They were up high in their cab of the truck, right, looking down on us. We couldn't hear anything they had to say, and they didn't want to hear us. So I wanted to communicate to them that we just did not support what they're doing. Okay. So I just did a thumbs down. Every time he honked his horn, I did a thumbs down, and so there were a lot of thumbs down.
A lot of thumbs down.
It wasn't an easy thing to do, but it was an impromptu thing. And we've had enough. We've had enough. This is an occupation. This isn't a protest.
They've had enough. Dang it, they've had enough. And that poor little old lady is just wandering around out there to all the truckers. Get your vaccine, jerks. Get out of my city. And so they're just so upset about it. They finally had to make a statement, and, good for them. I support people speaking out, just like the truckers. Here's how this wraps up.
All of us are a certain age. We've been fighting a long time for women's rights. We're kind of used to it. But that was scary. I mean, that's a huge truck. They're bullies. It's not easy to stand up to a bully, and you very rarely win anything.
That they wouldn't come out and assault 3 women of our age, because that wouldn't look good on camera, that's for sure.
Yeah, get out of here. All right, so you can see how they're going right now. They start getting a little bit rude, and they're going to get out and assault you. All right, so she started the thumbs down. Okay, they didn't start it. All right, so anyways, you can see that those 3 little old ladies are very upset about it. But they're not alone, folks. People are taking to the streets in Ottawa. I'm going to show you this. Brace yourselves, because the counter protests are percolating right now. They are just busting at the seams. In fact, it starts with this guy right here. He's walking down the streets of Ottawa. And I got to be honest, folks, for the next 2 segments, content warnings. All right. I think the next 2 slides, I'm not joking. There's a guy who's dropping F-bombs. But we have to listen to it, because it's just great. So we're going to listen to it. So this is your 10-second warning. If you got little ones in the car, this is a family show, but we're going to make an exception on this clip because it's just too dang good. But not on this one. This one, you have a little bit of time. Of course, he's got an inappropriate sign on here. Go home, dipshits. Want to end the lockdowns? Get vaxxed, is what he says. And so this poor guy... Oh, this poor guy. Go home. Well, he might be starting something. There was another guy on the phone, but I don't think he's part of his... No, he's not part of it. So he's on his own, just walking up and down the streets with his sign. Maybe he'll be starting something. And so, he looks like he's having a bad time there. Now, we're going to listen to another guy that has a bad time. But so to be fair, right, to say to people in Ottawa, right, that there's nothing happening there, right? There's just ignore everything is also kind of a tall order, right? This is a protest. There are consequences to the protest. It is loud. There are horns going off regularly. It's better than, burning buildings down like the 3rd Precinct in Minneapolis as a form of protest. One is better, I would say, than the other. But still, there are consequences for it. As one video commenter pointed out, they posted this. This is what it sounds like in Ottawa from a high rise. It's honky for sure, no doubt. A lot of honks, right? There it is, right? And so you got to live with that. and this guy's playing songs. Pop, ba bump, ba bump, 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 ba bump, 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 ba bump, 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 do 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 do. Right? Okay, so you get the point. so you're sitting there and you have to listen to that all day, and you know, and you're a freedom loving person, and like me, the sound of the honk is like, it just sort of energizes freedom throughout my veins. I love it at this point. And but I'm one of those people, right? I'm not somebody who is detached too far from reality, unlike this guy. And so, as I mentioned, content warning, this guy is going to let him fly, but it's really good because we're going to be able to go through a full journey with this gentleman, and we're going to see sort of a freak out moment, and then we're going to come back down to reality, and then he's going to ask a question, which is a very good question. What freedoms have you lost, you stupid protesters? And then he's going to have a conversation. He's going to learn about some of the freedoms that have been lost, which are very easy to articulate. And then he's going to ask a question and then sort of answer that very question by talking about the mandates and detailing what authority and what power they come from under the Canadian law, as the truckers are well educated, right? They know their homework. They've done their homework on this. Okay, so as I said, F-bomb galore, get ready for it. It's just too good to pass up. Here it is, and you can just see he's upset.
Fucking stuff! Get out of my fucking city! But the thing is, get out of my fucking city! Frei! Frei! Hey, fuck you! There's a lot. What fucking freedom have you lost? What freedom have you lost?
What freedoms have you lost?
Tell me a freedom you've lost. I lost my mind because I haven't slept in 5 fucking days.
So he says, what freedoms have you lost? You tell me, what freedoms have you lost? I've lost my freaking mind because I haven't slept in 4 days. Here's what he says. Let's go back. So he's telling him.
I fucking hear it. And it's not even a horn. I love it's just the diesel engine. It's enough to drive a fucking person crazy. It is. It is.
Yeah.
But I want it to stop. Hey, Chris. Fucking leave it. I want it to stop.
All right, so here he comes back.
It has to fucking stop.
Then it stops when the government lifts the mandates.
Yeah.
You fucking idiot. The mandates are provincial, not federal. The mandates, if you're mad about wearing a mask or getting a fucking vaccine, go talk to Doug Ford.
Okay. All right, so listen to this guy. All right, so pause on that facial expression. Okay, his argument here is that the mandates are provincial, they're not federal. So he's saying you're complaining to the wrong people, I guess. But he asked the question previously, what freedoms have you lost? And so he's going to answer himself right now.
Well, you know what?
The fucking Prime Minister has nothing to do with this.
Actually, he does.
Do you know anything about civics?
Yes, I do, because didn't the federal government make vaccine mandates for all federal employees?
No,
and all federal...
It's a requirement for your fucking job.
Yeah,
see that?
Exactly. That's part of the mandate.
Hello?
Karen! Karen!
Hello?
Karen!
Well, that's a choice.
So then he says...
So
then he says it's a choice. Okay, so you see how he answered his own question. No, it's a part of your job. It's a conditional to get a job. And they say, hello, dummy. Yeah, it's a conditional. We used to not have a conditional. We used to be free to do those things without being mandated by the government to go and do that. And he just says, well, now you have to. And then he says his argument here is that it's a choice, okay? It's a choice, and you have a choice to just lose your job. Let's listen.
They lost their job.
the honking will continue until freedom improves.
That's right, baby.
Simple as that. Simple as that.
Fuck you.
Fuck me? Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Join us.
Trudeau said we have no right in the country. I do want to listen.
The honk.
I've lost my fucking patience.
I've lost my patience.
This is too much.
It's too much.
The honking will continue until freedom improves.
Yes! So I don't know who that is, but the honking will continue until freedom improves, which is just music to my ears. That's right. It will. I'm sure it will. And they're going to have to brace themselves for continual impact. Peaceful impact, of course. But they are. And we can see here that John Tory is over in Toronto. I think he's the mayor over there, or whatever the analog equivalent is. And he gave a statement to City Council on a convoy protest in Toronto. And so it's spreading around like wildfire. And you can see that Ottawa, where we've been spending most of our time, is right here. Further west, we've been speaking more about Coutts passing and those areas. But here, you can see Toronto. It's just not too far away at all from Ottawa. And we're also going to learn that what the Canadian officials are trying to do now is sort of actually stop truckers from joining and coalescing, from congregating into groups, as we're going to see when we go over to Alberta. But here is the mayor, and here's how he's sort of framing what the incoming protest in Toronto might look like.
I met with City Manager Chris Murray, with senior city staff, with Police Chief James Raymer, senior police officers, and
get that volume back up,
as well as with Councillor Cressy and others, to receive an update from the Toronto Police on a possible so-called Convoy for Freedom protest in Toronto this weekend. We all support the right of all Canadians to peaceful, respectful protest, and the City of Toronto has been no stranger to protests of all kinds throughout the pandemic and in many other instances before that. Police are continuing to gather information about this possible protest and will have a public update for residents and the business community tomorrow. Chief Raymer will also be providing an update to councillors as well, and has committed to keeping us all updated throughout as much as possible. The police service will be working closely with city officials in addressing whatever may arise. I want to be absolutely clear that I support Toronto Police taking necessary action to prepare for this possible protest, with a focus on doing everything they can to protect the safety of Toronto residents and businesses, and to minimize any disruptions to those Toronto residents and businesses to the greatest extent possible. Any protest in the area of Queen's Park absolutely cannot block off access to the hospitals around the legislature. People should not be blocked from receiving emergency care or any medical care, and hospital workers who have been frontline heroes throughout the course of the pandemic and before must be able to go freely and safely to and from their respective workplaces.
Yeah, and so
that is a must.
I think that, of course, is something that they're continuing to work on. But you can see that these convoys are now, they're spreading kind of throughout the world. On Tuesday, we talked a lot about this. We were saying that there was one percolating in the United States, similarly in Italy and other parts of the world as well. But it's not just other parts of the world. There's other parts in Canada where things are heating up as well. We go over to Milk River in Alberta, where we've got a Coutts border passing, and there's a blockade that's been building up there. This comes over from Rebel News. A lot of great reporting out of their group. They're over, I think, near there. And so they had a number of reporters in Alberta on this border area. And so K2 is reporting, says the truckers inside the blockade need your help. He says the Canadian police is jam-packed with hundreds of supporters who can't get through to Coutts. Okay, and so let's see what's happening here. Remember that on Tuesday we talked about this border crossing. So this is the border of the United States and Canada here. We've got Coutts Crossing, which is right here. And we had drone footage just showing you, there's border patrols there. It's a port of entry between the two countries. So it's a major crossing zone. And what's happening is up here is Milk River. Okay, and so Milk River, there's a blockade. So any truckers who are coming south on the I-4 or are heading over on the 501 East, or maybe it's, I don't know geographically where it is. It might be further south of here. If it's further south of the 501, well, then they really have this pinch point. So in other words, the point being that if any truckers who are in Canada want to go and join in Coutts, they can't if there's a blockade here, because they're literally stopping them from congregating, right? And so one of the strategies might be to stop the truckers is to just stop them from congregating, right? To keep them more decentralized, stop them from bunching up. And it sounds like, literally that's what they're trying to do here. So they've got some sort of a blockade, and here's what it looks like. You can see this, and I don't know exactly where the geography is here, but we're seeing the sheriffs actually line up, and truckers, sort of maneuver around the area. Let's watch. All right, so flags up, man. They are just posted up. Adjusting volume. And so you can see right there lined up here. Now, it says here, truckers, informers, and others are being blocked from joining Coots, the blockade at Milk River, the police barrier, though some trucks not related are being let through. So you see what's happening? They're actually checking, it sounds like, their basically their logs, right? And their bills of lading to see where they're going. Where are you going? Do you have to legitimately come through Coots? Do you need to stop here at this port of entry? If you do need to come through here because we verified that you're going where you say you're going, we'll let you through. But if not, then they're just going to turn you back so that you can't bunch up. You can't centralize there in Coots. Let's watch what this blockade looks like. Okay, so these are Rebel News guys reporting. So you can see, yeah, so they're letting trucks through. FedEx truck. And so presumably these are people who are not part of the Freedom Convoy. But they are now being, a lot more closely monitored, as we can see. We have another angle here, another posting from K2 says, I've received confirmation from an inside source that the blockade will no longer be allowing commercial traffic to pass. It's going to be staying the night here until more is brought to the table tomorrow. This was posted this morning, very early this morning, February 3rd at 1:51 a.m. And of course, go over and help them with their funds. But you can see, right, this is what it looks like. This is a blockade. Number of police vehicles just literally blocking this road. Watch. So it's very interesting. On the other side, you can see the Canadian flags are being waved. And so I think there was a lot of honking in this one also. So here we have a third commercial truck passes the checkpoint. Protesters are furious. They aren't allowed to support their fellow truckers in Coots. They're being basically held back at the perimeter. Here's another, more images of other actual commercial vehicles being allowed through, but not the truckers who want to protest. And so if they, there's really nowhere else for them to go other than back around the blockade, or they got to outwait the blockade, or they got to go to a different port, a different location where they can congregate. But then you can sort of play that cat and mouse game where if the truckers are re-congregating, re-bunching, sorting themselves and reconnecting, then they may be sort of playing this cat and mouse game. All right, and so I think we have one more here. Coots blockade has a police barrier wrapped around it. So here's what they're saying now. The Coots, actually at Coots, not at Milks River, is also being surrounded. And so supplies like food and fuel are being walked in. And so this is being posted by Sid Fizzard, who's also over at Rebel News. And so he has this sped up like 3 or 4 times, just showing that people are actually, basically carting food and supplies in because the police have surrounded the blockade, is what they are reporting. And so right there, hauling coolers and other supplies back over to everybody, which is interesting if, you've got a bunch of roads and things. So interesting what's happening there. Another one says commercial vehicles are now passing through. You can see that FedEx is sort of, slowly going through there. So that 2-day overnight shipping, that may not be there. But stuff is certainly going through. And then moving on. All right. And so you see that title down there, truckerlawyer.ca. And so it sounds like what happened is Rebel News actually hired a lawyer in Canada to go help them with a lot of this stuff. We've got this guy, Chad Williamson. He's going to be detailing a little bit about what's going on. He's the trucker's lawyer that is being crowdfunded at truckerlawyer.ca. He's negotiated fuel to come through the checkpoint over there. Says this doesn't seem to have an end in sight. Here's what he has to say.
So it's been a tenuous and precarious day here on day 5, rolling into the evening. The lanes are open, but clearly this has not come to an end. Negotiations are ongoing, but parts of the blockade still continue in force. The morale is pretty strong here. We did negotiate a massive fuel truck to come through and refuel some of the semis that are on the line.
All right. And so you can see there is stuff happening. There are some negotiations that are taking place. And that, of course, is good news. And we'll see where it continues from there. We had a couple super chats come in, so let me grab a couple of these before we move into our final segment. Barry Cream, yes please, says you can see the light bulb go off in her head when she calls them mercenaries, talking about the city council member from Ottawa who's like, oh, yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what they are. And she uses that, and she's going to double down on it. C. Goody says, you should set something up in the near future with him. We'd love to have you on again. Nick's resident shill grift extraordinaire. That's from C. Goody 564. Oh, C. Goody. Yeah. So, okay. I'd love to. I'm trying to clear space in my day so that I can spend more time talking to everybody, because there are some good people. C. Goody says the last super chat was about Nick Rekieta. I'm a moron. Yeah. Talking about, yeah, I'd love to talk to Nick. I love talking with Nick. He's got an awesome show, and I think he's a really interesting and I would say, what's the word? Somebody who you want to emulate to some degree. I really like how he thinks in terms of unplugging from the system in many ways. Hopefully you know what I mean about that. Tails says, the CBC reporter's pause after Viva's first question about having a bad experience says it all. He had to stop to think of an answer and involve violence. Yeah, right. He had to, and what did he come up with? Did you hear that? It was a beer can. Okay, so somebody threw a beer can. Great. Tails says they've hit their limit after 1 week protests, but they're okay with 2 years of lockdowns and mandates. I'll respect my elders, but those ladies need a hobby. Ricky Bishop says the only IV this whole time was the unnecessary amount of thumbs down by that lady. I mean, she was aggressive, really too many thumbs down. I mean, come on, like, we get the point, lady. Like, enough already, right? He's dead. Enough. I agree with that. John says, Rob, Twitch crew coming in strong tonight. We're sending you hugs. By the way, stay away from CBC. Long form content with no ads. Heck yes. You stay away from the CBC. By the way, you stay away from the CBC. Yes, that's good. Good. Well, shout out to Twitch and my friends over there. I want to spend some time learning that platform. I've been watching more of it, and so I think I understand how it works. But shout out to Twitch. Thanks for being here and for your love. We've got Tail says, downtown Ottawa is a liberal stronghold. Residents voted for the crime minister and his cronies. Dude in the blue jacket can complain to PM blackface. Justin Trudeau. Yeah, who likes to wear blackface a lot. So, oh my God, this is awesome, says 2 weeks to honk the curve. Kareem says, does that blue guy not realize the truckers likely caused Quebec Premier Legault to scrap his proposed financial penalty for the vaccine disobedience? We're going to get to that. That's coming up in the show. And Mark Lafrance says, general strike. I think that's kind of what's happening, isn't it? A lot of them are, I think, sort of refusing to go along with the ordinary course of business. And so those are great super chats that came in. Thank you for those. And we've got one more segment left. Justin Trudeau tweeted something quite disgusting towards his fellow citizens. He said this back on Tuesday, right as the trucker Freedom Convoy was really gaining momentum. He says, I want to be very clear. We're not intimidated by those who hurl abuses at small business workers and steal food from the homeless. We won't give in to those who fly racist flags, and we won't cave to those who engage in vandalism, dishonor the memory of our veterans, which is just, wild. He says there is no place in Canada for this behavior. Talking about the truckers. He says, so to those responsible, it needs to stop. And to those who join the convoy but are uncomfortable with the symbols of hatred and division on display, be courageous and speak out. Do not stand for or with intolerance and hate. And so when I read that, the first time I thought, is this a real account? Is this the prime minister of a country calling his people, who I've worked with many truckers and I know them, I would say, I don't want to say I know the entire community, but, I know what my experience has been, and I know what I am seeing in the media, and it doesn't look like racist flying flags, stealing, dishonoring veterans, causing vandal, or doing any of these other things that he said. So I was like, what the heck is he talking about? But I wanted to double check on that, because oftentimes our presumptions can get the better of us. And so I had to just think about this and think, maybe Justin Trudeau is right. Maybe these tweets reveal something that I just wasn't aware of. And so I had to go down and take a look at some actual evidence. And here is what I have found. We're going to break this tweet down piece by piece. Let's do it. It says here, first and foremost, he's not intimidated by those who hurl abuse at business workers and steal food from the homeless. Well, folks, I went out and I found something involving food taking place on the streets of Ottawa. And I think he's talking about grand theft here. We have an entire thievery situation unfolding right before our very eyes. Let's watch.
Liz Thompson television, the best woman from Vancouver.
Thank you. Show me what's happening.
Oh, this must be stolen food.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is from Polish store.
Yes.
From Toronto.
Oh, stolen goods.
They're eating better than us. Wow, I wish I was a trucker, man. Bread, food. That looks like a barbecue right there. Looks like they're going to be eating really well for a really, really long time. And we bless them, that is for sure. Look at this. Look at all of the provisions.
Oh my gosh, even more stolen food.
Oh my goodness, and guess what? Everybody is going to want to keep sharing for months and months.
Wait, did she say share?
Oh, yeah. My assistant, Liz, is really eyeing up those donuts. And she's like,
donuts? Liz wants the donuts.
Who are you? Yes, I'm Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson, and we're just presenting what's going on behind the scenes. Who are you?
Oh, my gosh. These people are just thieves. Did you see all the food they stole? It probably came from that soup kitchen, right? They probably just went in there and just started, throwing elbows and just, you get the donuts, you get the van, I'll meet you in the back. And they're just, smashing all over homeless people, probably is what happened there. But, Justin Trudeau nailed it. Let's see what else he's talking about. Oh, yeah, this one. I forgot about this one. The racist flags. He says, we won't give in to those who fly racist flags. And on Tuesday, I was like, what the heck is he talking about? What racist flags were he talking about? Because I watched a lot of Viva on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. And he was down there and I didn't see any racist flags. But the chat alerted me. They said, Rob, somebody had a Nazi flag. You're kidding me. You're kidding me. Somebody did? Well, I guess that ruins everything. So cancel everything. We're done. Somebody brought a flag. All right. But I was curious about it. And so I took a deep dive. And the post-millennials on this too. And they said that they've identified the photograph. It looks like this one right here. And it looks like there is a Nazi flag right there. Oh my gosh. So they're very curious about this. They do great reporting and they say they're going to pay $2,000 to anyone who can help identify that person. Who is that person? $2,000. The photo went viral, but our reporters haven't been able to locate this person. Other independent media has been able to ID them also. Nobody knows who that person is. Very curious. Now he's got $2,000 into it. A number of other people have got some money into it. And so you can take a quick, enhance moment and see if you can assist and send your information in over to the post-millennial. It's this fella right here, right? This is that Nazi flag. And so this is the pole here. I believe that's the flag, right? I think it's going right into his left hand, if that is accurate. That pole. Hang into the Nazi flag. Got that. All right. And so you can zoom in on a little bit here. Looks like he might have a helmet on. He's got a big sort of coverall, a hoodie on. He's got some sunglasses on. We can zoom in a little bit further. Can't really make out, much on the facial expressions, but looks like a helmet and a big coat. Here it is sort of situated differently. So if you happen to know that man, the post-millennial and many others are asking for information. Yeah. And some people are saying, he might actually look like an African-American person, a black man, which is interesting that he'd be carrying a Nazi flag. Yeah. Or it could be Justin Trudeau, just in blackface. We don't know, right? That could be Justin Trudeau. We have no idea because it's Canada and he is missing after all. So it's hard to tell. Could be him. I really don't know. But hopefully somebody can identify this fella. Yeah, I think it's Justin. It's probably Trudeau. He's trying to derail this entire convoy. So this has not been an isolated incident, right? There was another Fed who was there, and he got booted out of there. Corey Morgan on Twitter said demonstrators chased away some idiot with a Confederate flag in their midst. They wouldn't have put up with the Nazi one for a second. That's why whoever the idiot was with it never actually joined the protest, because he would have been thrown out of there. And Justin Trudeau know that. Here is what happened with this Fed. Look at him wearing that face mask, idiots. Show your face.
Now he's going. Now he's gone. We called him out. He knows. He's going to hold his head in shame now.
Yeah, and I don't know what that... That's a trucker. That's a truck on a flag, right? So, all right. So, okay. So, right. People are going to go to these things, and oftentimes they're going to try to craft a narrative. And so you can see somebody else caught this. They say the guy circled appears to be Trudeau's personal photographer. This guy, Adam Scotty, who just happens to be photographing a Confederate flag guy up close. Appears this was all staged, right? And so, you know, there are people who want to craft narratives here. Somebody says, guy literally had a photographer following him around. Guarantee his capture is going to be a headline photo on many other outlets. Prime example of why people should not trust the mainstream media. And Yukon Strong says, watch the legacy media for this photographer's capture. This is how you know it's fake news, telephoto lens taken from a parliament building. And so they just walked out in front of this building, right? Taking pictures. Here is a closer up version of this. Somebody saying they're identifying this guy, that it's this guy. You know, I can't tell. This is somebody who is Justin Trudeau's personal photographer. And so, right, who knows? But that's the story with the racist flags that Trudeau was talking about. We won't give in to those who fly racist flags. Well, who is that person? Because apparently one of them sounds like it was maybe you, and the other one was somebody that was maybe your photographer's actor. So yeah, don't act like the truckers are like embracing racism or something. Weirdo. All right, so what else is he talking about? So we've got the people stealing food. We've got the racist flags. Oh, let's see. Oh, vandalism. Yeah, a lot of the vandalism going on. So before we get to the dishonoring the memory of our veterans, let's see how these trucker vandals are wrecking Canada. Here's one prime example. Watch this madness taking place right here. I mean, this is a perfectly good Honda right there in the middle of the street.
This is my second revolution.
Second revolution.
We Polish people, yes. We Polish people abolishing communism. We started that revolution in Europe in 1981 with solidarity movement. Now this is my second revolution, and guess what? This is revolution for
freedom.
Once again, for
freedom.
With love. Who loves this country?
We do. We love this country, right?
Do you love Canada?
They love Canada.
Canada loves you back. What you give to universe gives you back. Guys, I also represent...
Wow, it looks like a lot of vandalism going on around there.
Adopt a tracker. Guys, your help is needed, especially everyday support.
All right, so we couldn't really identify much vandalism going on there unless you're talking about maybe somebody leaving their Mountain Dew bottle on top of the Civic, a Honda Civic, without permission. Maybe that was something, I don't know, you know, which could be offensive to a lot of people. But we also saw this on Tuesday. I mean, there was some pretty serious business taking place to a lot of these very historical monuments that exist all throughout Canada. It's a very important thing, you know, to remember your history and to make sure that you cherish and honor where you came from. And so when people desecrate memorials and statues, you know, it boggles the mind. And the truckers did that. Here's what happened. Look at this. They put a sign in this person's hands. Yeah. So obviously they put a hat on top of that. And that is one of the most, I think that's a racist, illegal Nazi hat. I don't know. It looks like a Nazi sign and a Nazi hat, as far as I can tell. Somebody asked Justin Trudeau. I'm not sure. But here is another incident where Justin Trudeau and all of the Canadian bureaucrats weren't really all upset about this. This happens to be the Canadian version of George Washington, John A. Macdonald. This is what BLM did to this statue. Oh, yeah. Nice. And watch this guy go hump his head. Watch this. There you go. Yeah, there you go. But he didn't say anything about that vandalism, did he? No, actually, he said he supported the BLM movements and protests, and he didn't speak out against them. But he is speaking out against these people because maybe they should have done that with those statues, and then he would have been very excited. I'm not sure. All right, so what's this last thing that this ridiculous person said happened? Well, he says this, that we're not intimidated by those who dishonor the memory of our veterans, which is probably one of the more offensive things on this list. Okay, you're a thief. Yeah. Okay, you abuse small business workers. Okay. You steal food. All right, you're a thief. Okay. You're a racist. Oh, so what? Everybody's a racist these days. We won't cave to those who are vandals, whatever. But dishonoring the memory of our veterans, my goodness. Well, that's a pretty tall claim there, Justin. So I wanted to look around and see if this was happening. And I found an example of this. As you can see here, this is the War Memorial on Parliament Hill. Here's what they're doing. They're just literally taking it over. Like they own it, you know? Like what is this, their memorial now? Shoveling snow off the War Memorial? Like being respectful, good people? I don't think these are government employees. I don't think these are... This doesn't look like dishonoring the vandals. But I don't know. Yeah, they're vandalizing the snow. That's right. They're vandalizing the snow. First of all, that snow... Did anybody ask them? Maybe that snow was put there on those steps. Maybe we needed more snow on those steps. And they're removing perfectly good memorial snow. Unbelievable, these people. So as you can see, Justin Trudeau is right. He has just accurately castigated an entire segment of the population. And so he writes, there is no place in Canada for this behavior. And so, you know, I started asking myself, what is he talking about, this behavior? And folks, you know, it just gets worse from here. As you can see, this is the scene in Ottawa. Is that a racist song? Nice. Pretty. So obviously, as you can see, they are organizing something. It's some sort of a ritual. I feel like they're planning. You know, we heard here on January 6th about these stack formations and things like that before they took the podium out of the White House. This could be bracing for something like that. I'm not sure. I'm not a military expert, but that looked pretty devious indeed. And so hopefully they're building up the military there in Canada to come and, get on high alert. They should probably talk to Lloyd Austin here from the Secretary of Defense. Okay, and in addition to organizing and creating cells of insurrectionists, they're also forming teams. And they're starting to train. Get ready, Canada. We have two teams. They've got sticks now. We know that sticks were used in the insurrection on January 6th. They were on flagpoles. Jacob Chansley got 3 years for that, almost 4 years. They're running around with sticks in Ottawa now. Somebody has to stop this. This is too aggressive for me.
Where are you going? No, turn around, turn around.
That went out of bounds. Somebody's going to get murdered, I think. Somebody better call the police because that looked pretty violent on the streets of Ottawa. We've got one more, folks. Keep those earmuffs on those kids because it's about to get real bad. This is our last one, I think. Here it is. Oh, my goodness. I think this is cultural appropriation of this song, I think. Are they allowed to use this song? I'm not sure they're allowed to use that. Maybe they are. I'm not sure. Somebody better call Justin Trudeau and see if that cultural appropriation is appropriate. I'm not sure if it is or not. But folks, of course, that's all insane, right? It's all ridiculous that we see what looks like a little utopia on Earth. It looks like people pay money to have that experience. It's happening in Ottawa and other places, but it's actually having an effect, which is what's so beautiful about this whole thing. Even though it probably, for many people who are out there in the cold, away from their homes, away from their families, spending time standing up for freedom, getting pilloried by many people in the media, getting castigated by politicians and other losers out there who don't value freedom, well, it's working. It is. You can see evidence of this all around the places. You can see here that this was posted on, where was this? Saskatchewan Premier issues a letter in support of truckers, saying the policy no longer makes any sense. And so this came out from Scott Moe on February 2nd. Scott Moe is the premier of Saskatchewan, a Canadian province that borders the U.S. Here's what he says. Says, it's time to look at and ending all remaining COVID measures and restrictions. It's good news, right? And so you start to see the dominoes start to fall. Let's listen and see what he says.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
There's been a lot of discussion lately about whether it's time for us in Saskatchewan to look at ending all of the remaining COVID measures and restrictions that we have in place.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think it is time.
Yes.
That's what I am hearing.
Right on.
And that's what our MLAs are hearing from most of their constituents. Now, that's not because COVID has ended. It most certainly hasn't. It's because people understand it better. They understand what they need to do. They understand the risk, and they are prepared to live with that risk more than they are prepared to live with the ongoing government intrusion into their lives.
Yeah.
Remember when this first started so very long ago? Government measures were supposed to last, I think, 2 weeks. Well, it's been 2 years.
Yeah,
2
brother.
2 years of some of the most challenging times for this province and, quite frankly, some of the most challenging times that this world has seen. But as we move through all of those challenges, we learned more about this virus, and we learned more about how we can protect ourselves. We learn to assess our risks, and we learn.
Yeah, and they're going to do all that, which is great news. But as you can see, right, people everywhere are starting, the tides are starting to turn a bit. Over in Quebec, the CBC in Canada posted this, says that Quebec Premier Francois Legault, is that how you say it? Says his government will not go ahead with a proposed tax on the unvaccinated. Why? To protect social cohesion in the province. Yeah, people are angry about this. Made the announcement at a news conference on Tuesday, already eased restrictions on gym. There was a tax. They were going to literally tax people for not getting a jab, which is just one of the most insane things. Tax first announced would have imposed a monetary penalty on Quebecers who were eligible but refused to get their dose. But he's going to scrap that because of growing discontent on the population. Says, I understand this divides people. Right now, we need to build bridges. Yeah, it's real nice. 2 years after the fact, everybody's coming around now and joining the right side of the argument. Here, Justice Center is another organization now joining and representing the Truckers' Freedom Convoy. And so I don't know much about this organization, but they look like they actually have a decent, in law, there are all sorts of these sort of like legal interest groups. Like I'm a part of the Arizona Association for Criminal Justice, right? Arizona Association for Criminal Justice. It's a group of criminal defense attorneys, and we care about criminal defense issues. And there's other organizations like the National College for DUI Defense, the DUI Defense Lawyers Association, DUI DLA, NCDD, all these different. The point here, one of these organizations, JCCF, is jumping in on behalf of truckers. And typically these are very powerful, pretty highly motivated, decently funded groups. And so, to see something like that happening, I think is good, right? The more lawyers, the more legal efforts that they can get behind them, the better. And so we're going to leave it there, and we're just going to jump into some questions and see what you have to say about this, because there may be some additional road ahead. And we're going to follow it along, and I want to hear from you. Let's see what we've got from our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And I got to do a refresh on this. And then let's take some of these YouTubes. We've got PK from AK says, tell your Canadian friend to post pics and videos of every culture, religion, and orientation. Trudeau called the protesters white supremacists. Flood social media with diversity. That's PK from AK. Yeah, we had that clip on Tuesday of, there was a great TikTok guy who actually made that point, right? I think Paul Minder on TikTok had a very good point about that, and was sort of saying that he was sharing his experience. So look him up. Ricky Bishop says, Nazi flag guy is QAnon shaman's cousin from up north. It could be. If it's not Trudeau, that's probably the next plausible thought there. We've got Shane G says, oh no, a Nazi flag. How can a free society exist if one person is carrying a Nazi flag, right? That's all it takes. If there's one person there, everything's canceled. Everything. I think that's what they want. We had a couple people join up as members. Awesome, which is great. We're going to be able to get some new gifts in here. We've got A.O. became a member. Zha Jiang became a member. And Henry Dixon, shout out, mod in there, is also a member. We've got Tackerus is here, says, with the police blockades, truckers may continue to protest the only way they can, by setting up their own blockades on major highways. Bye-bye, GDP. That's from Tesseris. I mean, you know, hopefully these things don't escalate. Hopefully the domino effect continues and Canada just finally says enough already. You know, that would be ideal. Alejandro Garcia says, it's amazing the same people who said BLM was mostly peaceful are saying these people are violent racists. Keep up the good work from Frozen, Texas. Are you cold too there in Texas? I know there's a lot of cold everywhere. Even in Arizona. It was a little bit cold today. It was like 44 degrees this morning. And I had to put a jacket on, you know, it was terrible. And that's not to make fun of anybody else out there, right? I mean, I know it's actually serious business, like minus 20 degrees, like people will die and stuff. So, you know, I don't want to joke too much about that, but be safe, stay warm, and lots of thoughts and love. We've got Wolfgang Deo says, fiery protest, send in the military. Oh my God. Oh, Mad G, he says. The irony is JT was wearing a poppy last November. And I'm not sure what a poppy is. But Henry Dixon, Wolfgang Deo, and Brian Tracer all became members as well. Thank you, everybody, which is great. I think we're gonna hit that number that we need. And let's see. Okay, this is booted up. Let's see what we've got here from our friends on Locals. My mouse game is not working real well today. We've got so the first comment is from VNT Kiss. Let me come back to that, V. We've got Miss Lucky says, from Sergeant Bob, as we all know, the Canadian truckers are the only group to stand up to the draconian measures taken by the socialist government. Good job, road dogs, from Sergeant Bob. Yep, they're standing up to it. And Vienticus gave us a big comment. We're going to come back to it because it's long. We've got Heather, 3 girlies, says mercenaries, says, I don't think that word means what you think it means. To the people who are inconvenienced, there were people who are inconvenienced when women wanted the right to vote. There were people who are inconvenienced when other people sat at the wrong lunch counter or went to the head of the bus. Protests may have conveniences or inconveniences, but it's better than non-peaceful protests. These truckers are not being violent, but the rhetoric from the government certainly sounds quite obnoxious. I think that's very true. And let's go over to Vienticus's comment. We see here, it says, Rob, I can be pretty preachy at times, but if you'll indulge me, I've got a brief manifesto, then I'll shut up. This thing with the truckers and people standing up to the mandates and passes is a good thing. We stand on the precipice of something truly terrible, tyrannical biocolonialism. This is a class war we fought for centuries. It is worldwide, and it is happening on the last battlefield that can ever exist, the human body and mind. But drawing the line isn't enough. You probably remember the game red light, green light. When you say green light, you turn around. Anyone who's still moving gets eliminated, but others keep on coming. This is how it is with the oligarchy, constantly creeping up on the average person when they're not looking. We got to change the rules. We have to change the game. We all know what they're really after. They're practically giggling over the idea. They want feudalism, ownership of the masses. They want a great reset. We have something we probably never had so much in the history of humanity: momentum throughout the world. Who knows when the masses of the world will be so activated and unified again? So we need to push back and end all the endless wars, corporate rule, and central bank control, mass surveillance, false flags, psyops, privatization of services, public institution secrecy, and so on. I urge that every person rummage through their homes, find their own individual greatness, dust it off, begin to wear it, steal your strengths, embrace your weaknesses. This cannot be about leaders. It cannot be about heroes. It has to be about people, lest we become led astray by some false prophet. Now it is the time, because if we fail, if we miss the opportunity, we may find humanity being thrust into a future that even its architects will regret ever creating. We know it's what they want, and it will result in an ever-encroaching desolation that may just lead to the extinguishment of humanity, because once everything is scrutinized and controlled, how much willpower would exist in the average person? So don't just hold the line, push back on the whole thing. The time is now. I hope this long comment didn't exasperate you too much. It's a nice comment, Vienticus, very well written, and I think there's a lot of power behind it. Thanks for writing it. Hopefully that lands with some people. Miss Lucky says, from Sergeant Bob, I lived in Canada 2009, late 2021, with Canadian bride Miss Lucky. I made lots of friends, good people, work closely with others. Yes, friendly people. However, many Canadians do accept socialist government. To me, the socialist government was a downside of Canada. Coming back to the USA, I appreciate our system of government in chaos at the moment more than I did before. From Sergeant Bob. Rich says, the libertarian version of Chop Zone in Seattle. Yeah, we had these here in the United States. We had Chop and Chaz and many others of them, I think. But those weren't racist, right? Those were on the acceptable side. This is not. So you see how the narratives shift. Thunder 7 says, the more the lunatic left spread their propaganda, along with the fake news, the more they reveal how desperate they are. They may have a megaphone, but the truckers have the respect of the entire world. Nobody believes the corrupt government politician lies, and there are too many independent media like Viva who are there filming. The genie cannot be put back into the bottle. And we are winning. Yeah, I think that there is a Moe shifter. Momentum is shifting. Dr. EMB says, P.S. all the Ottawa tow truck drivers apparently have COVID. They're not able to assist in removing the trucks and the rigs. I saw that headline earlier. And so that was sort of back to the conversation about what are they going to do? Military, politics. Why don't they just drop the mandates? I mean, that's a pretty good way to do it. And take the L. But I don't think that that's going to happen. We have Miss Lucky says, from Sergeant Bob, if those 3 women gave a thumbs down to the Antifa BLM at Portland's, quote, mostly peaceful protest, they would have been seriously assaulted and maybe killed. They are pitiful. And that's from Miss Lucky. Yeah, well, okay. We've got former LEO says, if the power-crazed politicians in Canada fail to recognize this is a legitimate protester, the truckers could call a general strike and shut it all down. I've been on strike over issues of conscience, going on a strike as a police officer. Politicians should start accepting the fact that decisions have consequences. I can even remember hearing about something about power to the people, which we appear to have forgotten about, from former LEO. Kareem says, I donated a large amount to GoFundMe. I want my money back. I will get my funds to the truckers one way or another. Can we use e-transfers instead of GoFundMe and request GoFundMe to refund? I was in downtown Ottawa, spoke with some of the truckers. I gave them some cash directly. Good luck intercepting that transfer. Trudeau? It's a good one, Kareem. I don't know. Honestly, there are a lot of people who I think are raising funds. And so I would just say, use your best judgment on that. Hopefully GoFundMe, I think if they do, they're not going to keep the $10 million. If they end the support, all that money will go back to the donors. And then you can find wherever to go. Let's see. Thunder 7 says, an update, Rob. GoFundMe released $1 million to cover lodging, but about 90% of the money is going to be donated to a veterans group voted on by the donors. Canadian government interfering in privately given donations is reprehensible. They are demanding that the GFM, GoFundMe, appear before some fake government committee to explain why they are allowing money to go to anti-Semites, racists, Nazis, etc. We are witnessing tyrannical government in real time. It's not going to end well for them. They are the fringe now. I didn't know that was happening. Thanks for the update there, Thunder. Monster 1 says, Rob, does Canada even have a military? Do their cavalry ride moose? I don't think so, but I'm not positive about it. a moose armed cavalry, I'm not sure I'd want to go up against that, quite frankly. Especially, well, we'll just leave it at that. Monster One says, funny how you shouldn't block medical treatment unless it's an unvaxxed person. Oh, I like that one a lot. That one was from responding back to the mayor, I think, of Toronto, who said, just don't block the hospitals, okay? People need medical treatment unless you're unvaxxed, and then we're just going to leave you in the gutter to die. So that's a good one. C. Rose says, Rob, Canadian Liberals and federal government regularly blame Doug Ford, the Conservative Premier of Ontario, for vaccine requirements. Meanwhile, the powers of Parliament, the feds, enumerated in different parts of the Constitution concern matters of national interest like quarantines and the flow of trade across international borders and between provinces, just like the Commerce Clause. $1 billion from the feds might push a premier or two into implementing vaccine passports, but what do I know? Interesting. So you guys have... So here in the United States, we have this Commerce Clause, right, that's in our Constitution. And our Supreme Court of the United States took that little phrase, you know, that the government has the power to regulate commerce in between the states or amongst the states, or however it's phrased in our Constitution. And what the Supreme Court has done is they've just said, oh, this little thing that says we can do some minor regulations on interstate trade, we're just going to open that up, and we're going to say that basically we can do whatever the hell we want because everything that happens in this country is related to trade, right? It's related to commerce. And so now that they have the power of commerce, essentially, to regulate commerce in general, you sell a widget, it ends up across state lines. Oh, you're an interstate business now, so you get regulated. And that's how the feds just gobble up more power. And you can go back. You can follow the precedent in the case law to watch this provision just be ballooned and expanded beyond anything that is even remotely, I think, connected to what the original concept was. Here, right, you're talking about all sorts of Canadian Parliament powers. I don't know anything about the legal structure up there, so I can't answer that one. We have Monster One says, Rob, did you see the farmers driving past the blockade on their tractors? I don't think I saw that. I would have clipped it. I Am Techie says, I understand and respect the protest. I also understand the constant honking over multiple days, weeks, and how that could cause someone's mind to go crazy, especially if you have little ones. Maybe this honking might not impact family with little ones. Would be nice to hear them honk in harmony or to a tune, though, which would ease the mind rather than just a random honk. Just my opinion. I think it's a great opinion, I Am Techie. It would be awesome if they could do that, sort of like play, Mozart or something with their horns, like Bach, get all the horns going at the same time. Yeah, would be beautiful. Monster One says, if fascism ever comes here, it will come in the name of liberalism. Ronald Reagan. Miss Lucky says, maybe the swastika flag is directed to the Canadian government as being repressive. Who knows? Just saying. Could be the message. Robute says, the Nazi and the Confederate flag holder is a false flag, glowy psyop, Canada version designed to discredit the protest. Well, look, Canada, their false flags are a little bit weaker than ours. Okay, they don't have the FBI. We have the FBI. We have an old agency to set up fake crimes. You guys don't have that. If once you get a little bit further along in your gigantic superstructure military industrial complex and mature up to our level, you too can have an FBI that will frame your citizens. It's very fun. Spawn Dog says, hey, Rob, liberals are mentally deranged and will do anything, and I mean anything, to make the people with common sense think differently. I'm convinced without a shadow of a doubt in this case. From Spawn Dog, it's hard to argue with that. C. says, the statute that was defaced is of Terry Fox. Terry Fox is a national treasure and widely regarded as the greatest Canadian to ever live. My local's profile is a picture of Terry Fox's sweater, and my desktop is a photo of when he ran the Marathon of Hope. However, putting a hat and a sign on his statute is far from defacing it. I don't know anything about Terry Fox, but he sounds like a pretty amazing dude. Robute says, you can really tell that Justin Trudeau is a fascist when he immediately wants to call in the military against peaceful protesters, yet Donald Trump showed restraint by not using the military when they seized Chaz. Considering the Liberal Party is against racism, then why aren't they condemning the blackface that Justin Trudeau wore? Seems like Justin and the Liberal Party are full of racists. Heather, 3 Girlies, says, oh my goodness, looks like Canada Day. So beautiful. Thunder 7 says, the American truckers are starting their convoy from California to Washington next week. Can't wait. The freedom movement is just getting started. Are we going to have our own convoy? Oh my goodness. It's going to be like Christmas in February. We've got Miss Lucky says, Sergeant Bob, the street hockey is ever so Canadian. We've got another one from Molly Pop Inc. says, I want to be clear. We're not intimidated by those who hurl abuse at small business workers and steal food from the homeless. We won't give in to those who fly racist flags, and we won't cave to those who engage in vandalism or dishonor the memory of our veterans. From Justin Trudeau, Molly Pop Inc. says, you mean like this? Somebody writing, the real heroes are the vaccinated. All across the wall that's built to honor the citizens of Cranbrook branch, right? So obviously a terrible thing. And so many people are asking Justin Trudeau about that. You know, why would you be saying that people are dishonoring the veterans when there's absolutely no evidence of that? Leafy Bug says, why is the blue jacket guy so very angry? I bet it has to do with all the trucks clogging up the streets of his public servant's paradise. He's been delayed. His time has been wasted. He can't get around. It's too noisy. There are way too many smelly working class people in the streets. I think he probably feels as though his freedoms have been lost and he's angry about it. Hang on, remind me why all of these truckers are here? Yeah, it's a good point. It all comes full circle, Leafy Bug. Maybe if there weren't COVID restrictions, he'd be less stressed out. And Robute says the situation about the Ottawa Council wanting to seize the money talks about the need for Monero. Blockchain decentralized means money can't be frozen. I don't hold any Monero, but I've heard a lot about Monero. There's a lot of other, now of course, there's no financial advice on this show or legal advice, but I am very interested in crypto. There's no doubt about that. And let's do a quick refresh and let's check back in on YouTube. We had a couple more come in. Wolfgang Deo. I don't think we're going to be able to see this. Yeah, this one's not going to show up on the screen, but those are emojis. That's Mitch, Trump, Biden, Kyle, Alex Jones, The Rock, Elon, and I think it was Psaki, circle back. Priza says, henceforth, use Give, Send, Go in lieu of GoFundMe, which I think is, that's an alternative, right? And is that? I think that's a Christian organization, isn't it? Give, Send, Go. Wasn't that a response to it's a Christian crowdfunding site. Yeah, so that's a good one. Yeah, definitely use them. We have a couple others came in. Let's see here. This one's from Spawn Dog. Says, Justin Trudeau is a brainwashed idiot with no grasp on reality. Canadians elected this moron. Does his party steal the election like ours? From Spawn Dog. I don't know. I didn't follow the Canadian elections. Kareem 165, and I'm not saying that ours was stolen, but use your own judgment. Kareem says, here is a 44-second video I took yesterday. The man is dancing am I allowed to even dance even though I'm unvaccinated sign. I'm sure that they would insult him as well. Let's see what we got here. All right, this looks safe. Am I allowed to dance even though I'm unvaccinated? Yeah, so that came from, where'd that one go? Kareem. So Kareem was there. Kareem was down there, actually. Did you dance with them? Did you hop in there, Kareem? Get your boogie on? I hope so. Former LEO says, hopefully the citizens of the USA will remember back when we had honor. In 1977, the American Nazi Party tried to have a parade in Skokie. A town placed almost impossible conditions by the ACLU went to court to protect the right of free speech by the American Nazi Party. Take a look at it today. And I hope that we as a country are embarrassed. From former LEO. And here we've got some support for truckers.
Let's move to Canada now. The truckers' protest is growing in size and strength. Thousands of protesters continue to gridlock Ottawa. In some places, violence is also being reported. Reports say the protesters apparently clashed with police officers in Alberta. Meanwhile, Canada's opposition leaders want Justin Trudeau to apologize to the protesters. They say the Canadian Prime Minister needs to stop derogating their motives by calling them a fringe.
I agree.
Our next report gets you all the details.
These protesters are no Incidents of violence are also being reported.
Sikh protesters
On Tuesday
join...
evening, some protesters allegedly assaulted police officers who tried breaking up a trucker blockade. The protesters, however, the truckers protest, but also for his track record of racist behavior.
His track record
I
of
apologize that minister is misleading Canadians. I do get very defensive of Canadians who are outside today, patriotic, peace-loving Canadians who are called misogynist and racist by the Prime Minister.
Yes.
So again, I will ask the Prime Minister, who, may I remind this House, wore blackface on more times than he can remember, apologize to the peace-loving, patriotic Canadians who are outside right now just asking to be heard.
Yes.
Will he speak to them?
Right on. Good for her. Whoever that is, that was outstanding. Yeah. So good. So they are speaking out against it there. You've got some Canadians recognizing what we saw here on those tweets. How do you say that to your own countrymen? It doesn't matter what they are. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's no evidence for any of that. Anyways, all right. So from Sergeant Bob, Canadian RCMP is like the FBI. Oh, is that what he said? No, I didn't know that. But I mean, are they as incompetent as the FBI? That's impressive if they are. I don't know. Let's see what else we've got before we wrap it up for the day. We had another one from Monster One come in. Says that Canadian farmers break through the police barricade. Let me make sure this one's all clear. Pull this up on YouTube. Yeah, so here we got this one. This says Canadian farmers breaking through the police blockade.
There they go! Woo! Go, tractors, go!
Yeah, baby, go! Oh, look at those tractors.
And the goose!
Bye. Bye.
Oh, you see them now?
Bye, police. Bye.
There they go.
Oh, it's just the best. So good. All right. So thank you for that. That was from Monster One. Oh, it's just lovely. Just absolutely lovely. And I think that, my friends, is it for us for the day. I think I got everybody's super chats. If I missed one, I'm super sorry about it. But I'm looking through. I think we got them all. And I want to thank you for all of your great questions. A lot of fun. And it's just an amazing story. And so I'm just so grateful that that we're able to talk about these things and send our love out there, because what is happening is just an amazing thing to be a part of. And I'm grateful that there are so many brave people who are willing to do what they are doing. It's incredible. All right. And so before we get out of here, I want to welcome some new people to the community. Oh, we had a super chat come in. The only time martial law was ever declared in Canada was done by Justin's dad. Well, that's nice. So that means that he can be like father, like son. That's great. Yeah. Martial law. I don't think it's going to get that far, but look, right. You know, these things can all it takes is one sort of fuse. One bad thing happens, right? One January 6th, and suddenly the entire Republican Party is now under the microscope of a fake Democratic political investigation because of one 4-hour thing. And so, you know, now they're going to use that for the next 4 or 5 years, 10 years, if they could, to continue to castigate their political opponents. And so, you know, I want to make sure that we're doing our part to show what is actually happening out there, to take a look at what the people who are on the streets are recording and showing, because what we're hearing from the media is absolute garbage, right? And they're going to try to craft their narrative. But 20 years ago, they didn't have social media. They didn't have people on the ground, boots on the ground, doing independent reporting and communicating the truth to everybody. And it's a beautiful thing. And so I want to welcome some people to our community at Locals. K Talking signed up and joined us, along with C. Reed. We've got Dante Picantes here. We have True Blue Truckers in the house, along with It's All Alley. Short time here. Richard the Real, Lovely Gemini, Wonder Girl 30, C. Jones, John's signed up. One Tough Chick, along with Frank MC, Ion Energy. We've got Wild Child, Alaskan for Trump. We've got AZ Gray Man, along with Mr. Shields. And we've got a couple of YouTube shout outs. And I think Henry Dixon just signed up on here. So we've got Mr. J Bug, Blue Bunny, Ricky Ricky Bishop, and then I, of course, didn't have the time to clip this one, but shout outs to Henry Dixon, who signed up as a shout out member on YouTube. And before we finally get out of here today, my friends, one final... And I want to thank everybody for being a part of the show. We're going to be back here same time tomorrow to do it all again. 4 p.m. Arizona time, 5 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. on the East Coast. And for that one Florida man, everybody else have a tremendous evening. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.